Speaking of Gutho, we get to Parramatta Eels. The king has abdicated, and we now have Jason Ryles in charge. Captain Mitch Moses, as announced yesterday, finished 15th last year, and really only scraped there by beating the Dragons and the Tigers in the last two rounds. They were last for a good chunk of last year. We'll start with their draw before I do their ins and outs. They play 13 of the top 8. We'll play the top 8 from last year 13 times, top 4 6 times, which isn't ideal. They play the Raiders, Bulldogs, Seagulls, Storm, Knights, Panthers, Dragons and Tigers twice. And they kick off with 4 straight Sunday games against the Storm, the Tigers, the Bulldogs, Seagulls. I guess that's a symptom of Penrith taking over CommBank for the year.
You would also have to think that most of those would be on Channel 9, though. Like, it'd be the prime time Sunday game.
But Penrith get all the Friday nights, and they're playing at CommBank, so someone's got to be spat out the other side. In this year, Josh Adokar, Dean Hawkins, Isaiah Yongi, Zach Lomax, Josiah Papali, Jordan Samrani, and Jack Williams, who's been elevated to the leadership group, which suggests he's probably going to be playing a lot more first grade than I initially thought. They've lost Matt Arthur, the Dejan RCG, Zach Sini, who's gone to Castleford, where he probably should have been for the last 5 years. Clint Gutherson, Morgan Harper, gone to North Sydney Bears. Morrisia, Lorenzo Mulatalo, Kai Rodwell, Ethan Sanders, Makasivo, and Blaze Talangi. Barn, do you want to do this 17? Do you want me to just do it?
Let's have a look at it, eh? So Iongi at fullback. Smoky for Rookie of the Year if he plays there for the... No, not a Smoky. If he plays there for the year, he's a very good chance, I would imagine. Adokar on the wing, Simonson on the other wing, Lomax Penasini in the centres, Brown Moses at the halves, Paulo, Lussick and Offahengawi in the front row, Lane, Cartwright in the back row, Hopgood at 13, Hands, Madison, Tuolangi and Charlie Geimer on the bench.
Yeah, like I said, the only one... now I saw that Jack Williams was in their leadership group. I suggest he's going to be in and around the 17, if not...
100%.
Maybe back row. Maybe starting back row. Ollie, what are we doing with Parramatta this year?
Watching them play football, for one. But
Barney,
yes.
can you...
No, I think they're comfortably missing the top 8. Again, I will say that. I think they're going to be praying that Moses stays fit. I think he's the absolute key. Other than that, maybe Zach Lomax, who I really wanted to put him on the wing, but he just sort of, it's the same as Selwyn Cobbo at the Broncos, right? I think he just has to play centre just because of
who
he
would have been signed as a centre. I reckon he's signed, I promise. Yeah. But yes, that's right. Simonson, I mean, you're only swapping him or Simonson, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the stronger option is Simonson on the wing and Lomax in the centres. So I've gone with that too. Yeah, I think they are definitely going to be an improved side from last season. I just can't see them making any sort of dent within the top 8 or sort of pushing towards the 8. I feel like we're still in a bit of a rebuild with Parramatta, and I've got them 13th, so I've got them just outside of the bottom 4. I've got them sort of in that, I call it the irrelevant zone. You're sort of 11th to 13th. They're just sort of there, and in a weird way, I think that's good for Parramatta to build on maybe in a 2026 or something. I do just want to give a shout out though, because you mentioned him and I'd completely forgotten Mike Acevo, poor Mike Acevo. I don't know if you guys have heard. Injured, yeah. He's done his ACL, so he's just gone over to England to play for Leeds and
with Brad Arthur.
Yeah, with Brad Arthur and done his ACL in training. I'm sure Jake will be there in the not too distant future, but
I guarantee it wasn't turning around to try and get a ball out of an in goal because he did that slower than anyone I've ever seen. Would have been trying to score a try for sure.
Poor old Mike Acevo, but pretty much for me, the Eels, there's not too much to say. As I said, I've got them sort of in the irrelevant zone. They're going to be praying that Moses is fit all year because I think if he's out for most of the year again, then they're nearly immoral for bottom 4. And I just want to mention as well, you can't see it on camera, but it's apt that we've got the 1986 grand final on in the background while we talk about the Eels. So, yeah, they will be largely irrelevant, and I think Moses is going to be by far the absolute key man for them. And if he's out for any significant period of time, well, they are stuffed, as they say.
Barney, what are we doing with Parramatta?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Williams. It might mean that Charlie Guymer doesn't turn up, and he was one of their out.
Thought he was fantastic. Yeah,
he was brilliant for them. And if they leave him, I'd be leaving Tuolangi out, to be honest. But yeah,
who was good at the back. He did have some good games in, I suppose, against.
Maybe even just leave hands out.
Well, here's the
tell
question.
Lussick he's got to play 80 minutes.
I was going to say, who's the hooker? Is it do they start Lussick? They generally
Talk his hands.
They generally play 40 minutes each, don't they?
Hands don't talk.
All right. Anyway,
They do.
you're just not doing it right, Oliver. All right. Sponsored by Yellow Pages, Bum. What were you doing with these hookers?
I don't know. I can't see them being any better than they were last year, to be honest. Moses adds heaps to get to getting him around the field, but they weren't able to open teams up last year. Lomax should add something. Like, at least they can kick to a corner and, like you saw what he did at the Dragons. He was just climbing over the top of blokes and taking
absolute
AFL marks left, right, and
mate,
centre.
day one of him walking in, Ryles would have said, right, Moses, you'll learn how to, you be practicing kick to the corners, which he's very good at.
And Ryles coming in to coach them, you should see a different attitude with a bit more grit and hunger and aggression out of the pack. But I don't know how far it gets them. I don't think they're a team that can get into the grind and continue to fight and end up climbing over teams at the back end. This is a team that, for mine, realistically needs to put points on in a big clump and blow somebody away and then hopefully hang on by the back end of the game, to be honest, because I can see them getting run down in a lot of games this year towards the back end of the season. Forward rotation could be even more of an issue than what it was last year now with RCG out of the side. Because that's when they were at their strongest, when you had Paulo and RCG on the field, and then they just fell away. And now without him,
But apart from Hopgood coming back will help. He missed a bit last year.
Hopgood was good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Madison, Paulo, Lane, Cartwright was good last year too.
Lane might end up being out of this side.
That's what I mean. Those sort of 4 or 5, we remove Greg if you're going to throw him in or out of the 17, etc. They've been together for 4 or 5 years now. You know what you get.
And they got bullied a lot of the time.
And they just... And Paulo's now well into the back end of his career. I actually almost...
I think they pulled the wrong rein there, to be honest.
I actually think he starts off the bench. I think he starts off the bench this year and just plays 25 minutes.
I think they would have been better off keeping RCG if
100%.
they wanted a man to build that pack
And
around.
I think Joff is still... I didn't realise Offengawi's only 29. He's maybe someone you can... he's best football, and he's been benched a bit at Tigers, but he was very good back in last year. Someone actually introduced from a scoop coach point of view a little bit. But if they just get bullied, it doesn't matter. Madison has always been a gunner, and he's just never quite got there. I agree. Like it's a very exposed team. I don't know how this changes. And then you take Gutho out, who, when they're doing well, was still involved in either the final touch or the second to last touch on most of their plays, even with Brown and Moses.
Finish it off. Yeah. No, 100%. Their defence was disgusting last year. For big parts of it. There's a clip up there if anyone goes and finds it where I talk you through a Canberra try where they just absolutely eviscerated the middle of the Parramatta defence, and it happened just way too often. Surely Ryles makes that his biggest point to try and fix that middle up in defence, but even on the outside edges, they're going to get they got beaten way too. Like Penasini's a leaky defensive gap that they run a lot of traffic at. Lomax is never known to be the best defender out there as well. Yeah. And you're going to have him outside Penasini. So, I can see them being very disjointed in their defence. Their tackle technique was disgusting. So, hopefully Ryles can fix that for all you Parramatta fans out there. But the halves will be able to get them into position. But I think they're going to be playing off the back foot for big parts of this year. Moses' kicking game should, help them get off the back foot at times. But I can't see them having a very profitable year. I've got them running 15th.
Sort of agree. I think, again, there'll be a couple of games where Moses rips them apart and Adokar gets a hat-trick or Lomax. And I did tip in a bob show Lomax to be top point scorer. I'm a little bit regretting that the more I've thought about it. If you're Ryles, I would almost be looking to make a point of starting your Geimas of the world and just rebooting
Jack
and making
Williams
and Jack Williams.
Yeah.
And
And push
making
your
a
cart
point
right
of
back to the bench and maybe Lane out of the side.
make them earn their way back in, get them hungry, and maybe a new coach is all we need. Maybe,
Yeah.
as Parramatta fans have told us for 5 years, maybe Brad Arthur was a problem. So who knows? But we'll find out because they'll be quick to blame Jason Ryles. I know that for sure. I'm certain. I agree.
Hooker's massive question mark. The one good thing they have is their halves, and they will probably win them a few games, and they'll get them out of bad positions. But like Ioni's trying to find his way at fullback. What kind of opportunities they open up for him is questionable. Penasini's not someone that you see beat blokes, constantly one-on-one. Who's the other centre?
Yeah, with Lomax, I guess, like you're saying, but
Lomax probably be on the wing, I would imagine.
I
they
think
signed
he's
him to
going
play
to play
centre, didn't they? So.
And Simonson on the wing. Otherwise, it's, as I just said before,
Simonson on the wing. But like Lomax has never been known as a defender. Neither Simonson, neither Addo-Carr.
No.
Like they can get balls, they can get the ball and get past guys and score a try, but are they going to be able to defend that try when it comes back the other way? I think they've got massive. For mine, they're probably one of the weakest defensive teams in the comp. So,
Anything for Supercoach?
So Lomax would have been their top scorer if he was there last year. Average of 79. It's going to cost you $7.74 to get him into your team. Brown, 6.52. Was the banker all last year in the 6, and 6 is a skinny position. So
It is very skinny.
if you want to bank on him for the year, he's probably not the worst in the world. Average of 66.5. Penasini, 5.75. Average of 58.7. Hopgood, 6.58. Average of 67.2 when he did play. He probably gets more games this year, so you get a little bit more out of him by the end of the year, but I'm not sure he goes bigger than that average. Moses averaged 64. Can average 75 if they're going up and flying, but yeah. Whether they will be at any point during the year is questionable. Geimer averaged 40 with 43 minutes in the 2 games that he played. 233 to get him in your team. If he's in the 17, I think he's in just about everybody's on the bench for the cheapies. Iongi, 47 average in 1 game, starting at fullback, 233K. Only in fullback, though. So as a backup fullback, a lot of people have him. It's up to you whether you take him or not. Offengawi, 41, averaged 41 minutes
He's
last year.
He's going to interest me because
So
I
probably
think he
pushes
plays an
to
hour.
55 to 60. That pushes that average from 42 up to 55 or something like that.
Because his first year at the Tigers and before that he was sort of 60 point front rower. But yeah.
And Madison, I didn't put any stats down. I just put a big question mark next to Madison. We know how good he can be. Like, how good was he 3 years ago?
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
Can he get back there? Don't know.
Again, we've got the Supercoach show on the horizon.